Okay, so today's election day in the United States seems to be a very important time. Uh, yeah, I can see where a lot of people think that. Um, so I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. I just want to go through what this looks like from my perspective, um, studying what I study, and the similarities and the congruencies of the people and the way we allegedly selected them. Uh, so I've always viewed it as a selection, not an election. I think we have a lot more power over our local officials. Um, Even that is getting very difficult. I think well, anyway, let's just get into it. Let's just get into it. These are the days of the birth. If you don't think the day of birth is important, then I think somebody needs to notify all the hospitals, because when the baby comes out of the womb, everybody scampers around and makes really good and sure that they have the exact minute that the baby comes out and takes its breath, right? So if it's not important, why do we do that? And certainly it is important. And I think there's a lot of people that don't want it to be important. I think there's a lot of people that covet that information and what comes with that. What can they do with that? I think that's probably the biggest unknown in the world, is that what is that information even good for? So, but either way, we're just going to run through, and I'll just show you a couple of things. The things that I look at, which are very odd, bizarre. Nobody does it. Um, well, I don't want to say nobody, but very few people. And this is not astrology. This is simply looking at a very standard model of the 20 days, which is the entire foundation of the Mayan calendar. Right? It begins these are the primordial pieces of the Mayan calendar. So it's a map of consciousness. It's the schedule of human consciousness. And when you're born, you're gonna produce what that day is. That's the toolkit you're born with. That's the energy you're affected by. And as you can see here, the two people were being told these are our choices. They are exactly one day between them in the 260-day count. The Tresina of Ajpu begins on a 1, and it ends on a 13 down on the day of E, down there at the bottom right, is the day of E. And in this Tresina, the day of E would be number 13, and then the following Tresina would be Aj, and that would begin 1 on Aj. That's how this works. So in that count, Biden and Trump are born exactly, well, we would call it 2 days apart, but I would say, for a better illustration, I would say 1 day between them. And more importantly, it's what area of this map we're looking at. And we're going to find that this area is the highest area of concern, and we continue to find a plethora of leaders in this area that have basically taken us to a place in the United States where we do not trust our leadership. And when we're considering majority, we're not considering a real majority. We're considering just these personality contests. It's not a true democracy, say. There's a lot of things people might have to do to be even considered, but either way, just so you can see that these two individuals are in the same Tracina, which gives a lot of information, and there's one day between them, and the 2 days they're born gives us a lot of information. Now we'll add a few more people to it, and we'll see that, boy, there's a whole bunch of people right here in these 3 days. Look at that. Emosh, Ek, and Akabal contain the birth of all these people. And Akabal in particular, we see that no less than 4 of the recent presidential candidates, even when they seem, pretty disparate, which they kind of are actually, but they are very, very, very similar. What they're producing and what we do when we get to that point is you basically just check the person. You don't need to know their name. You don't need to know who they're affiliated with. You don't need to know really any of those things. All you have to look at is what they produce. What effect do they have on human consciousness, and what do they produce for the human family? So you find things that are very, very similar. We're going to look at all of the 2020 candidates. Of course, most of them were from the Democratic side because the Republicans were sticking with their incumbent, but I wanted to show how I put all these people under the microscope by examining what their energy is that they're born with. So what you see is there's quite a few that are all born in very similar places or times. So with Bloomberg and Clinton, obviously both the same exact day, number Tracina. With Trump, Yang, and Sanders, all on the same day. But even more importantly than that, their Tracinas are all one day off. So that means that their number is 1 off. So it's not like Trump's a 4 Akabal, Yang's a 6, and Sanders is a 12 or something like that. No, it's 4, 5, and 6 Akabal. So they're all very similar right there, aren't they? Although there's one candidate there that displays all the negative traits that you look for in eliminating a leader. Not to say that any of these people are what I would select as leaders. They are not. Some of them may have qualities that would be useful, but I wouldn't say any of them are natural-born leaders. No, none of them. I mean, to a degree, but not to run, not to have that much power to do all these things. Technically, if I had to choose one of these energies and say, oh boy, this is all I got to choose from, and I don't look at their names, I don't look at their genders, I don't look at anything at all, I would probably go with 6 Akabal in Tihax, or I might edge over to the 10 Kawak in the Tracina of Z. But at the place and time that we are, I might go with somebody from the Tracina of Ish, but I don't know. I would want to look closer at what they've produced. But either way, no, there's nobody in Aj. And as I'm going to show you, the day of Aj is a very good day to have, if you're going to appoint leaders, people that are going to uh, tend to the needs of the community and earn your trust and earn your respect, and to really have what we would consider to be in the human species a leader of or just these people that are able to take charge and do the right thing. It's very, very old and well known that Aj is pretty much your target energy there. You might have somebody in the Trecina of Aj, but if you can get somebody on the day of Aj, and then you get into the decans, you have a lot of choices there. And there are ideal times for leadership, but we are not considering any of those right now. There is none. And in fact, look at the grouping. This is how it lays out on the map of consciousness where we're choosing our leaders. And you can see that the grouping is heavily over there on the side of the fire quadrant, which is, interesting. I wouldn't go there, but I mean, for some things, territories maybe, but for a whole people with the power that the United States has in the world, no. I mean, if you're thinking, well, it doesn't really matter what your thinking is or what your problems are that you have with leadership on this earth at this time. This is not a good indication. This is not what I would consider to be an auspicious grouping. I could get into explaining exactly why, but we'll just use these two examples. Here's two presidents, FDR and Lincoln. I would say they're, pretty well-known names. They stand out. Lincoln did the Civil War. FDR did the World War II, although it wasn't, he didn't start World War II. But this is what these guys ended up with. Lots of war. Lots and lots and lots and lots of dead people. Now, I don't consider the wars to be their fault. I consider it to be the product of their time and that accompanied them, right? We all have a journey. Not everything in your life is your fault, but at the end, your product is going to match your birth time. So when you're considering Aj, you always have to watch out for Akabal, because Akabal is it is going to be war almost every time, mainly because it's the rebalancing and what's causing these wars. When we look at these things, what were these wars? I mean, how did they get started? What's behind them? Well, the Civil War, if you go with the thing that it was slavery, you could argue money, whatever, but slavery was the big product. That was started by a religion, wasn't it? That was validated across the earth. There's papal bulls that said, if these people aren't Christians, you can either kill them or enslave them. And despite anybody's argument, well, they didn't really condone slavery. Yes, they did. It's right out of the book. That's their book, and that's their product. So they can't just say, oh, no, that wasn't us. Yes, it was. World War II, again, another religious war, wasn't it? Oh, they're killing the Jews. And, technically, right, this was more religion. There's just been more religious wars going on in Europe for centuries and centuries and centuries. So when we look at these days and why we don't pick leaders from up there, Emosh, Eek, and Akabal are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam 1, 2, and 3. So we're moving into this time where somewhere around behind Aj is that decan of Vulture. That's Aquarius. So when you overlap these calendars and lay them in with the others, it starts to make more sense. On the other side is Leo and Bear, the third decan of Bear. You can go watch my video on that. But that's what lies behind Akabal and Eek. And every system warns about war in those places. Even talks specifically about, the War of the Five Armies, which is the worst threat you can possibly have. Is, they talk about, well, there's all these armies. It's basically, they're talking about war amongst many, many countries. So, Emosh is the day of 9/11, when 9/11 happened, and that 9/11 fits Emosh to a T. That is it. I mean, the I Ching actually even says, it's I Ching number 11, because that's day number 11. It even says the castle walls returned into the moat. I mean, it's chaos in the family when the mind has lost control. Eek is rapid movement. It's symbolized by the cross. This is basically your archetype of the sun, or the heavenly sun. It's the wind, it's rapid movement, but it's an earth day. And right above that, to the left or to the right, above Emosh, is Virgin Decan. So you have the mother and the son. And that's what Christianity is based on. So it's part 2 of the book. Isn't that interesting? So Judaism is part 1. Christianity is part 2. Islam is part 3. And they were pretty much created in that order, weren't they? Made by the hands of men, causing strife for many, many centuries. And now we have Biden. His product will be monetary theft and emotionality. Trump, his product will be religious war and territorial greed. Period, end of story. I don't have anything else to say about it. That I wouldn't choose either one of these people to be a leader. And I don't think we should be doing this process at all. It's not very democratic. It's not very wise. It's not effective. We've seen that it's not effective. So if the people have lost trust after 200 and some odd years of doing this, and we're at this place where we are, where we're in a position where we're in constant war, and we're in a constant state of mistrust, then you have to examine the system. So, no, I wouldn't choose either one of these people. Wouldn't come anywhere near it. If we're going to have this much power in an executive branch, then it should be a shared council of highly trained elders. And I don't care how many layers of vetting you need to get them in there. That's would be the best way. This way you could still have your Congress and I would rename the Senate. I wouldn't call it a Senate. I'm reminded of this famous saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans. Well, how come we're always doing everything like the Romans, but we're not in Rome? So I've always found that statement to be bizarre at best, because Romans went around telling everybody what to do. So nothing could be further from the truth. When in Rome, do as the Romans, and then what the Romans did was, well, we're going to go out and make everybody do everything just like Rome. Well, I have a problem with that. So I'm just saying, a council of highly trained elders, and I mean they could be selected at a very young age, and they could be trained, and then slowly you end up with the cream of the crop, and you put them in the executive branch. And when the decisions are made, you're going to have stability, you're going to have trust, You're going to have a proper rotational system that is not vetted by personality contests. It's going to be vetted through an education program. And, we can fight over that. But what you would end up with is stability and wisdom and trust. Now, this isn't new. Isn't new at all. So that's what we're really dealing with. So when you think about, well, I don't trust this guy and I don't trust that guy, well, maybe think that it's not the guys, it's not the people, it's the system that is the issue. Because it wouldn't matter, would it? It wouldn't matter. That's why it's becoming harder and harder and harder and harder to find people that anybody wants, because we don't want this system anymore. So just give that some thought, and keep in mind that when a system is in a state of disrepair and dispersion, because of, again, religion should not be in politics. Religion is causing a lot of dispersion. We have a town hall in every town. My town here has 2,000 people. Our town hall sits about 100, 150 people at the most. But there's like 8 churches in town that seat 100 to 150 people. So there's only 2,000 people in town. And when you get them all divided up according to, whether or not they think, I don't know, all these bizarre converted mythologies are true at different levels of acceptability, you're not going to find a very good, cohesive, trustable political system. So that's the issue. That's my vote. That's my vote today. Highly trained elders on a shared council in the executive branch, rename the Senate, and also reallocate the Senate to represent people by number, not state. If you want state representation in the federal government, then it should be the governors. I thought we elected governors. So what do we need senators for? The governors can be the state representations, and the Senate could be the second tier of representation of the people, at a fewer number, but with proportionality in mind. And the Congress basically is, I think the Congress is okay the way it is. That's the best inroad for, if you look, Congress, the people in the House of Representatives are held accountable more than anybody else. There's really what they're doing above the House of Representatives is they're slowly evading accountability, aren't they? So, I don't know. That's just my idea. That's my thought. That's my assessment of the situation. And that is my very firm prediction of the product of either one of these personality contests everybody seems to be enthralled with. And frankly, it's terrifying. It's not healthy. And I don't think it's the people. I don't think Trump created this problem. I don't think Biden created this problem. I think the system is not proper. It is not functioning properly because we're not using all of our available wisdom in our leadership. We're just not. We're not utilizing wisdom here at all. We're utilizing knee-jerk personality contests in an impossible situation. You're not, this is not going to work out. It's not going to be something you're going to want to do again. And every time we continue to do this, we're going to get more and more tired. We're going to get more and more disgusted. And even now, barely 50% of the public votes, or voting public, a little over 50%, right, even go to vote because of that. Voting should be localized, and then the Council of Elders has to come from a rotation of civilian oversight, and of course, behind all that, the military has to be very much under the control of civilian government, but you definitely don't want it in the hands of a couple of profiteers. That hasn't been working out very well, has it? So, if we're going to break away from monarchy, we have to break away from monarchy because this is just monarchy light, in my opinion. Okay, thanks a lot. Have a great day.